I used to think heartbreak was something that unfolded slowly, an unraveling, a slow fade. I never imagined it could arrive like an earthquake, loud and sudden and permanent. My name is Lena Whitaker, and I was supposed to get married on May 6th. I can still say that sentence without crying, but it sits like glass in my throat. It was going to be a beautiful wedding, garden-themed, elegant, with soft ivory and sage green. I'd spent months making mood boards, color palettes, flower arrangements. Every little detail had my fingerprints on it. I'd chosen a venue just outside Nashville, nestled in a clearing with rows of oak trees, like something out of a Southern romance novel. And Travis Hale, my fiancé, was supposed to be waiting for me at the altar, eyes teary, smile trembling. That's how I'd pictured it. We'd been together 3 years. He was charming in that easy, Southern boy way, always knew the right thing to say, always made people laugh. My friends loved him. My parents? Maybe not quite as much. My dad said once, "He's a salesman at heart. That kind of man knows how to talk, not always how to stay." I should have listened. The week before the wedding was chaos, in the most exciting way. My mom flew in with a suitcase full of last-minute fixes. My sister was already complaining about her bridesmaid dress, and I barely slept from the adrenaline. I thought I was living my dream. The night before the wedding, we hosted a rehearsal dinner at a little lakeside restaurant. Travis didn't seem nervous. He was smiling, joking, raising a toast to forever. After the party, he kissed me on the forehead and said, "I'll see you at the altar. Beautiful." Those were the last words he ever said to me. I woke up the next morning feeling this strange, sour tightness in my stomach. I told myself it was just nerves, that I was just overwhelmed. But when I walked into my kitchen to grab coffee and found a little yellow post-it stuck to my fridge, my world stopped spinning. "I'm sorry, Lena. I can't do this." That's all it said. No explanation. No phone call. Not even a goodbye. My hands started to shake. I read it 5 times. 10. My eyes blurred, and I remember thinking this is a joke. A horrible joke. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I tried again and again, until my fingers were red from pressing the screen. He'd vanished. My mom was the first to arrive that morning. When she saw my face, she dropped her makeup kit and ran to me. I handed her the note, and she froze, like a statue. My dad followed, and his face darkened the way only a father's can when his daughter's been hurt. Word spread fast. Within hours, the bridal party was whispering. My aunt cried. My grandma, who flew in from Arizona with oxygen tanks and her walker, tried to stand up and make me eat something, bless her. But I couldn't move. I sat on the couch in my silk robe, the one that said bride in rhinestones on the back, and I stared at nothing. My wedding dress was hanging in the corner. My shoes were neatly lined up. The bouquet was already delivered. The flowers smelled like betrayal. And the worst part? I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated. People started calling, messaging. Some out of sympathy. Others just wanted the gossip. What happened? Did you guys fight? Did you have cold feet first? Some even implied it was my fault. Maybe I rushed him. Maybe I didn't see the red flags. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone into the river behind the venue. Instead, I did something no one expected. I went to the wedding venue. Not in my dress, just in jeans and a t-shirt. I took the catering we'd paid for, steak medallions, grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and walked it down the block to the local homeless outreach center. I told them, "Please, feed someone who needs it." One of the volunteers gave me a look, kind but puzzled, and said, "You don't have to explain." But I did. I needed someone to know that even if the love I'd planned for disappeared, someone should still benefit from all this effort, this money, this hope. Back at my apartment, I finally took off my engagement ring. I didn't throw it or smash it. I set it down on the counter and stared at it. It was a beautiful ring, 2.5 carats, vintage-inspired, set in platinum. Travis had told me it was a family heirloom, passed down from his great-grandmother. I used to joke that the ring was the only thing in the relationship older than my student loans. That night, as I tried to fall asleep on my tear-stained pillow, I realized something unsettling. I didn't miss him. I missed the future I thought we had. I missed the illusion. But Travis? The man who ran without a word? He wasn't the man I thought I was marrying. I remembered something his ex once posted on Facebook, a cryptic status about being gaslit for years and discarded like garbage. At the time, I thought she was just bitter. Now I wasn't so sure. The next day, I sat with my parents at the dining table. My mom looked tired, older. My dad was stiff, hands clenched around his coffee mug. "I want to keep the ring," I said. "And I want to talk to a lawyer." My dad raised an eyebrow. "You serious? I'm not letting him disappear without accountability." My mom nodded slowly, then reached over and squeezed my hand. "Then let's do this right." I wasn't sure what I was getting into. I just knew that if I stayed silent, I'd be handing him the last word. And he didn't deserve it. He took my wedding day. But he wasn't going to take my dignity. Not without a fight. They say silence speaks louder than words, but when a man disappears without a trace the night before your wedding, the silence becomes deafening. For 3 days, I kept hoping Travis would call. Even if just to apologize or give some pathetic excuse I could at least scream at. I needed something, closure, rage, a confession. Anything. But he was gone. Blocked my number. Shut down his Instagram. Deactivated Facebook. His work said he was on leave. His apartment? Empty. Even his car vanished from the lot behind his building. My dad called it cowardice. My sister called it a hit and run on your life. But me? I called it a story I wasn't going to let him write alone. On the 4th day, I got a DM on Instagram. The name didn't register at first, Marissa Kane, until I clicked her profile. My stomach flipped. Travis's ex. We'd never met, but I'd heard her name once or twice in passing. He always talked about her like a disaster. She was obsessed. She tried to ruin my life. And, of course, the classic. She couldn't let go. I didn't even question it back then. I believed him. Because I was in love. And love makes you stupid. Her message was short, but it made my blood run cold. "I think it's time you knew the truth about Travis." She wasn't reaching out to gloat. She wasn't petty. She was tired. And it showed. Marissa told me they'd been on and off since college. Even after he proposed to me, he was still texting her. Still meeting up. Still sending her voice memos at 2 a.m. saying he wasn't sure about Lena and didn't want to be trapped. He was living a double life. He told Marissa that our wedding was a mistake, that his parents pushed him into it, that he was planning to figure things out after the honeymoon, that maybe, just maybe, he'd come back to her once it was all over. My hands shook as I read her screenshots. He called me a placeholder, a safe bet. There it was, proof that I wasn't just left. I was lied to, used, and then thrown out like expired milk the night before my vows. And you know what made it worse? People were still whispering. Mutual friends texting, "I hope you're okay," while tagging him in memes like nothing happened. Old coworkers saying, "Well, weddings are stressful. Maybe he panicked." Panicked? No. This wasn't panic. This was premeditated cruelty. And he didn't just hurt me, he humiliated my whole family. My parents dipped into their retirement savings to help pay for that wedding. My grandma skipped her dialysis appointment to fly out. And I built a life on a man who didn't even have the guts to face me. That night, I took the ring out of its box and stared at it under the kitchen light. It sparkled, cold, beautiful, perfect. Just like Travis. He told me it was a family heirloom, that it belonged to his great-grandmother, that it carried generations of love. Lie. The next morning, I took it to a jeweler downtown. Just out of curiosity. Just to confirm what I already knew. It wasn't antique. It was bought 2 years ago at a boutique jeweler in Nashville, part of a spring collection. Worth a small fortune, but no sentimental value. No Hale family history. Just a receipt and a payment plan. So he lied about the love. And he lied about the ring. I called my best friend that night and told her everything. When I mentioned the ring, she laughed bitterly and said, "Keep it. You earned that damn diamond." But I didn't want it just to wear. I wanted it for evidence. The next day, I walked into a law firm downtown, Bell and Maddox, family and civil litigation. I half expected to be laughed out of the office. Who sues someone for calling off a wedding? Apparently, more people than you'd think. The attorney I met with, Cassandra Bell, was calm, sharp-eyed, and didn't waste time with pity. She listened, asked questions, took notes. She looked at the messages from Marissa, the post-it note, the ring receipt, the canceled invoices, the flight stubs for out-of-town guests, the florist deposit, the dress. Then she leaned back in her chair and said, "You might have a case." My heart thudded. She explained something I'd never heard of before: breach of promise to marry. An old-school civil claim, but still valid in several states. If you can prove there was a promise of marriage and you suffered losses, financial or emotional, because of it, you could file. I sat there, stunned. He said he wanted to marry me. I told her quietly. Every day. For months. And then he disappeared like a con artist, she said. That's not just a broken heart. That's fraud. I left her office with a folder full of paperwork and a plan. For the first time since May 6th, I felt something stronger than heartbreak. Purpose. This wasn't about vengeance for me, not really. This was about accountability. About refusing to let someone destroy your life and walk away like it never happened. People like Travis think they can ghost their consequences. I was about to prove him wrong. When you decide to sue your ex-fiancé, everyone suddenly has an opinion. Some call you petty. Others call you brave. A few even say you're money-hungry, like asking for accountability is a crime worse than what he did to me. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't doing this for attention. I was doing it because Travis Hale needed to learn something his charm never taught him. Consequences don't disappear just because you do. Cassandra Bell, my attorney, filed the lawsuit 2 weeks later. She called it a civil complaint for damages due to breach of promise to marry. In plain English, he ghosted me before the wedding and left me holding the bill. Between the venue deposit, catering, dress, travel arrangements for out-of-town guests, and the honeymoon flights to Maui, we were out nearly $38,000. Not including emotional distress, which, as Cassandra explained, wasn't easy to quantify in court, but very real nonetheless. And the ring? That glittering 2.5-carat lie? He wanted it back. Through his lawyer, yes, the same man who didn't have the guts to call me. He sent a formal demand. Return the engagement ring immediately, as it was a family heirloom. I almost laughed. Cassandra sent back a short reply, attaching a copy of the jeweler's verification, modern cut, 2021 spring collection, custom engraving. TNL always. Always. What a joke. I kept the ring. It was legally a gift, she said, given in anticipation of marriage. And since he broke the engagement, the law in Tennessee said I had no obligation to return it. I started sleeping better. Until the court date was set. It was surreal walking into the courtroom. I wore a navy pantsuit my sister helped me pick out. Simple, strong. Not a trace of bridal lace or soft pastels. This wasn't a love story anymore. This was a reckoning. He was there, sitting beside his attorney, looking thinner than I remembered, but not sad. Not guilty. Just smug. Like this was a minor inconvenience he had to charm his way out of. He didn't even look at me when I entered. Just kept scrolling on his phone until the judge arrived. When the proceedings began, I was asked to speak first. I stood up, hands trembling slightly, but voice steady. I told the truth. About the 3 years we spent together. The proposal. The planning. The promises. I showed them the invoices. The guest list. The flights and deposits and receipts. The post-it note. The screenshots from Marissa. The text where he told me, "I can't wait to be your husband." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just told the court what he'd done and what it had cost me. His attorney tried to paint me as emotional, unstable, vengeful. Said Travis panicked and that calling off a wedding, while unfortunate, is not illegal. But Cassandra stood up with her quiet fire and said, "This isn't about cold feet. This is about deception." My client didn't lose love. She lost time, money, dignity, and public reputation because someone made a promise he never intended to keep. Then she dropped the last piece, Marissa Kane's affidavit. It included messages proving he'd been seeing her during our engagement, that he'd called me a backup plan, that he knew for months he wouldn't go through with it, but kept the charade alive for optics, for convenience, for status. The judge listened. His eyes narrowed. He nodded slowly and thanked us. Said he'd deliver a ruling within 2 weeks. Travis didn't even stay to say a word. He brushed past me outside the courtroom like I didn't exist. I didn't stop him, because I'd already said everything that mattered. 2 weeks later, I got the call from Cassandra. We won. The judge ordered Travis to pay $32,100 in damages, citing willful misrepresentation and abandonment of contractual intent. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving I wasn't crazy, that my pain wasn't just bad luck or drama. It was real, and someone was responsible for it. And the ring? Still mine. I thought about selling it, but instead, I had it reset, turned the diamond into a pendant. Simple, elegant mine. Because I wanted a reminder. Not of him. Not of the wedding that never was. But of the moment I stood up, told the truth, and didn't back down, even when everyone else said I should. 6 months after the court ruling, my life looked nothing like it had before. The wedding date, May 6th, had come and gone, replaced by something far more profound. Freedom. Not just from Travis Hale, but from the shame, the silence, and the heavy feeling that I had to apologize for someone else's betrayal. People ask me now, was it worth it? The court, the attention, the lawsuit, the stories. And I always say the same thing. Absolutely. Because here's the truth no one talks about. When a man breaks a promise in a church, he's judged. When he breaks it in a courtroom, he's held accountable. And I wasn't the only one he hurt. After the verdict, 2 other women messaged me privately. One had dated him in college. The other met him just months before we got engaged. Different cities. Same charm. Same cycle. They saw my story in the news and said it gave them closure. That finally, someone had stood up to the man who made them feel disposable. But the biggest surprise came from my dad. The same man who sat quietly at my almost wedding, jaw clenched, rage simmering under the surface, showed up at my apartment one evening with a bottle of wine and a folder. It was filled with invoices. Paid off. He'd been quietly reimbursing every vendor who couldn't refund us. The caterer, the florist, the hair and makeup artists, even the down payment on the honeymoon. I knew you were going to fight this, he told me. So, I wanted to make sure when you came out the other side, you didn't owe anyone a damn thing. I cried harder than I had since the night Travis disappeared. Not because of the money, but because it was the first time since the engagement fell apart that I felt supported. We spent that night on the couch, drinking wine and eating cold pizza while watching The Good Wife. Fitting in a way. It was the first time we laughed about the whole ordeal. You didn't lose a husband, my dad said. You dodged a lifelong PR crisis. I started writing again. I posted my story, anonymously at first, on a relationship forum, then Medium. Within weeks, it went viral. Thousands of women commented. Some outraged. Some brokenhearted. Some who had been through eerily similar things but never thought they had the right to fight back. It made me realize something. There's power in being the one who speaks first. Eventually, I attached my name to it. I got invited on a podcast. Then a small local talk show. Then a digital magazine asked to feature me in a piece about modern legal rights in broken engagements. They titled the article, "She Kept the Ring and the Receipts." I framed it and hung it on the wall of my new office. Yes, office. Because somewhere in the chaos, I realized there were too many people suffering in silence. Women, men too, who felt they had no recourse when someone shattered their future. So I started a nonprofit, the Whitaker Promise Project. We offer legal referrals, emotional support, and educational resources for people left in financial or emotional ruin after broken engagements, long-term deceptions, or financial manipulation in relationships. We're not in the business of revenge. We're in the business of restoration. And the first donation? came from auctioning off the matching earrings Travis had given me for Valentine's Day. Funny, isn't it? The very gifts he used to impress me were now funding protection for others. I haven't dated seriously since. Not because I'm bitter, but because I've spent this time rebuilding, redefining. I go on hikes. I paint. I sleep peacefully, knowing I won't wake up to a post-it note and a ghost. Do I think about him sometimes? Sure. He's not a monster. He's just a man who never thought I'd stop being polite long enough to stand up for myself. But I did. And I'll keep standing for myself, for others, and for the future I get to design without anyone else's lies scribbled all over it. So when people ask, "You really kept the ring?" I smile and say, I kept the ring, but I took back everything else too. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.